Over the last 24 hours, we've had a major dip across Bitcoin and altcoins. So you're probably asking the question, should you be buying the crypto dip right now, or are things going to get worse and should you wait? In today's video, we're going to be running through the entire market. I'll give you my opinion on what to do right now. And I also have a very special guest coming on the show to help you navigate the current waters of the crypto market. Mando, welcome to the show. We haven't done a show together. We did a stream last week on Banter, but I've been following your content for a while, and it's amazing to have you.
Thanks a lot, man. Yeah, it's a good day to be on. It feels like a good day to have some hot takes about where we're going to go in the market.
Yeah, I think it is a good day because, I think a lot of people have that question right now, like, what to do, basically. I know a lot of people have been very excited, very bullish. The market's been pumping, altcoins have been pumping, but we have seen this pullback on Bitcoin. And yeah, I think it's really the question of the day: buy the dip or wait. But before we get into that, I quickly want to give your Twitter a shout out. You've been doing amazing stuff, and I've been a subscriber of your newsletter. I'm actually going to link it in the description for amazing daily alpha. Would you mind giving the audience a bit of an insight into what you do and your background?
Sure. My background is I was a TradFi trader for 10 years at various different investment banks in high yield credit markets. I then moved into crypto pretty late. I got into crypto in 2021. Got involved in NFTs mainly when they started blowing up. That was my first thing to get involved in, and then kind of just stuck around. Like, did okay in the NFT move. At one point was one of the biggest holders of Bored Apes, and then managed to get out of that position luckily, and then kind of remove the bags into broader crypto. And I'm still here, and I do it alongside kind of another trader who I've been working with for 10 years, OSF.
Amazing. Yeah, I've been following your stuff. Not only are your trades great, but your information's great. So I really wanted to get you on here to pick your brains a little bit. I know you're very into the Solana ecosystem, very into meme coins. So we're probably going to get alpha in both of those departments today. And I think your strategy towards the market also aligns well with mine in terms of how we trade and identify strength. So I think there's going to be a lot of alpha today for the viewers. Let's recap where we're at. So I actually did a tweet yesterday saying that I de-risked. Now, I'm not going to claim to be a genius because I think it's very normal to take profits in a bull run. But funnily enough, this did end up timing what I think you could consider to be a local top, with Bitcoin starting to reverse, many altcoins starting to reverse. As you can see in front of you, it's a bit of a bloodbath today. And I don't say that lightly. I say it in the sense that, look, it is the biggest drawdown we've had on Total 3, actually since May last year almost, if you want to count January's wick as well. That was similar in size. So how are you feeling about the market today? Lots of panic out there. What's your general feeling? Have you been taking profits like me yesterday, or are you holding strong?
I think it's an opportunity today, if I'm honest. I did take some profits as Solana started going up towards 200. I had some lever trades there, which I took off. Luckily, I took it off kind of early yesterday when we kind of retest 200 and then didn't really go back to all-time highs. I was like, this is a good time to take some off. And then today we've had a bit of a bloodbath across altcoins. It felt like it'd been coming slightly. We'd had a few days of weakness in Bitcoin, and then it just kind of spread. There's obviously been some toppy signs in all the pre-sale meta and meme coins really driving the value in the market. But for me, this feels like another a good time to kind of reassess. I don't think we're just going to immediately bounce back to kind of all-time high straight away, but I do think if you have the right horizon in some of these coins, you're going to be rewarded. This is kind of the dip that everyone's been waiting to happen. Like, if you've been waiting, underinvested, and you've been chasing the market from 26K to 36K, 50K, 65K, whatever, then we went up to 72. This is the first real dip we've seen. Like, Bitcoin's been a bit of a meme coin. Even if you look over the last 3 months, that chart is kind of wild. And I think you've also, as much as you've got to have discipline to take profits, I also think you have to have the discipline to buy these dips on these sort of moves. You can get easily scared out of them, and then you miss the long-term opportunity.
How do you avoid catching a falling knife on these dips, though? Because I think for a lot of people, it seems like, the market drops, they buy, and then the dip just keeps on dipping. What's your strategy for actually approaching accumulating during dips?
Yeah, so I think you just have to focus on Bitcoin first, right? If you're trying to time dips or catch a falling knife in altcoins, it's very, very difficult to work out where the real dip is, because you think you've got the dip and then Bitcoin will go down a little bit more, and you can get absolutely eviscerated there. So focus on where Bitcoin is, focus on where the liquidity heat map is in particular. It looks like right now, a lot of the bids are in the low 60s, kind of, I would say, peppered around 60K. And then the liquidity on the upside is kind of around 70K. So yesterday when we were 65, 67K, I felt as though the majority of the liquidity was lying lower than that from the bid side. And that's where we'd start to see support. There are some key technical indicators around that sort of level. Like you've just brought up some of these moving averages. A lot of the moving averages on the 4 hour and on the daily are kind of coalescing in that high 50s, 60 area. So I think that seems like a decent area to look at where we could get a bounce. So that's where I was looking at today. I think the other key thing is you're never actually going to 100% time the stone bottom, and you're never going to 100% time the stone top of these sort of things. So for me, it's more of a risk reward trade. Like when I look to get in, I'll often look to scale in, and I'll look at the upside downside at each price point. So when Bitcoin hit, for example, 63K, and Solana this morning, I think it hit 172, I said to myself, right, what's the upside downside here? Like Bitcoin could go down to 58K. Where does that put Solana? Probably like 165, 160 area. So you got about a 10% or 5 to 10% downside there in Solana. And your upside is that it reverses and goes back 25% from that move. So I like to look at things from upside downside. And also I don't go all in. So like, I think a lot of people, they're like, right, I'm all out and then I'm all in and I've 100% caught the bottom. And then it moves even lower and they have no more powder, and they often can panic, and then they sell out of their whole bag even lower, and they're just terrible trading. So I think you have to scale into these moves, particularly catching a falling knife, and always be aware of the upside and downside of each trade, particularly in reference to where Bitcoin is probably going to be seeing a bottom.
I think the worst thing you can do in this market is panic sell. Like I've actually been seeing this over the last day or so, like people panic selling. But that does lead to a fair bit of FOMO. Like when the market reverses, then people end up buying back in and bag chasing, which is a risk. And I also liked the point you made about averaging in. Like I always preach this on my shows. When the market's pumping, you should be laddering profits out to replenish stablecoins. But then during major dips, just as you would ladder out to take profits, it's the exact same. You should ladder into a position. And I think that is generally the way to avoid the whole like catching falling knife thing. So in terms of actually buying, what altcoins are you looking at? So I actually had my accumulation list, which I revealed on yesterday's show. A lot of them are L1s because I think there's a little bit of an L1 kind of narrative starting to crop back up. Rune was another token I wanted to accumulate. There are some AI things that reversed after NVIDIA that I'm looking at, like Arweave, the render type plays. Near Phantom showing insane strength. So is Aptos. I also saw your list. We had a few crossovers. So you also like Say, you also like Injective, Rune, obviously Solana. So yeah, what kind of tokens are on your accumulation list?
I think the ones that bounce first, or at least most sustained, are probably going to be the L1s here. Right now we have, I think I saw 10 million daily active users in crypto across various different chains. There are a lot of different apps just driving activity on certain chains. So, and it feels as though Phantom is being picked up by a number of different accounts. It's obviously got this new upgrade coming in the coming months. That could be a very easy one that I would add to that list here. The number one trade for me this cycle has just been Solana, because it's just on the adoption curve. Like I'm not sitting here waiting for promises. Now, obviously at 100 billion plus FDV, it starts to become a less, you have to appreciate the risk reward of that trade. Like it's probably not got unbelievable upside in the short term, right? This has already done a 10x in the last few months, right? Like it was trading at 15, wasn't it? And now it's trading at 100 and 170 plus. So I think you have to appreciate where you are in that trade. That being said, like adoption is just such a huge thing for L1. So that's been the first one I always look to buy on any of these moves. And then some of the Solana ecosystem coins, mainly, to be honest, that's been WIF, because I just felt like that was the strongest meme coin on that chain, and that's been dominating a lot of the activity. So when I look to buy Solana, I'll often look at the WIF chart, and I bought a little bit of that today as well. very similarly because it looked like it had formed a kind of a double bottom there and could bounce. So
And it's a leader too, right? I think another very valid point here is that when liquidity comes back into the market post dip, it tends to not want to gravitate towards like the high risk, like high beta plays. It tends to flood back into the leaders first. So you've got tokens like WIF, they absorb that initial liquidity. Then when the market's comfortable, then I think we see like that broader rotation into the lower cap, like meme coins.
To be clear though, in these sort of scenarios, I'll normally have a list of about 10 or 15 coins, and I'll bring up the chart, and whichever ones I feel like showing some signs. I don't have like, I'm only going to buy these 5 coins. I'll have a pool of 15 and I'll choose 3 to 5 of them. So this morning I bought Solana, I bought WIF, I bought PEPE, which is similar in the AI space. It sold off after the NVIDIA conference. I had a look at NEAR as well. The reason why I looked at both NEAR and PEPE is because the open interest in both of them had been eviscerated. It was down like 30% over the last 24 hours. And I felt like that's normally a good sign of people puking out of long risk in those two. And I quite like those stories. Like NEAR's got a huge number of active users, although it's coming from kind of one app. And FET, I just feel like from a risk rewards standpoint, I said to myself, it was trading just above 2 billion, I think, FTV. It could maybe go down to the high ones, but I think that's a massive buy. And the upside again is many multiples on that if it really takes off. So those are the ones I bought this morning. That being said, I looked at a number. I looked at Phantom, but I felt like it got a little bit crowded over the last 24 hours, so I didn't actually buy that one. Although I would have. I haven't been buying today just because no one seems to really want to pick up that mantle. Whenever it breaks above, it gets smashed down. And then there's a couple of other ones I was looking at in the DeFi space. I like Pendle in the DeFi space, which has been growing its TVL very, very rapidly.
That's an absolute beast. I spoke about that on the show, I think like 4 months ago when it was under $1. By the way, if you aren't subscribed, hit that subscribe button, click that bell for more crypto alpha. But yeah, this has been absolutely
it's gone up, and then it's kind of been forgotten about slightly. It's done a partnership with Athena, so its TVL is something close to like 3 billion at the moment. But at the same time, it's a small market cap. It's a slightly older coin. It's been around since 2021, so it's slightly more like bag holding in the community. But I like that one from an upside downside perspective. That's a low current market cap. I think it's a 700 million market cap right now. I think that could do many multiples with a 2.5 billion to 3 billion TVL, particularly if Athena, which I think is one of the biggest things that's going to happen in the DeFi space. The cycle continues to grow its own TVL.
You spoke about RWAs on the show last week as a vertical, like you're super bullish on. Have you seen this Mantra one? I mean, this has been, I actually took a position in this literally like, I think a few days ago, and it's literally just ripped. So it's like the only token keeping my portfolio up right now.
Yeah, that one had a big rip. Like Ondo had a very, very big rip as well. I don't know if you've been following that one. That's the one who tokenized.
I'm an early investor. Yeah.
Yeah, who tokenized one of the BlackRock funds. But then
it's down though. This could be a decent one.
So these are some of the coins I'm looking at. The issue about a lot of these, and is a lot of them are ETH ecosystem right now, and it feels as though a lot of ETH ecosystem coins are just difficult to sustain a bid. Like the people are a little bit worried if they take a step back about the whole move of TVL in that space. So if ETH isn't really rallying, a lot of these coins, despite having good underlying metrics and actually rapidly growing metrics, just can't really rally. So again, I didn't buy any of those coins on that dip, but that's the sort of stuff that I would be looking at. If ETH has shown a little bit of strength this morning, like a little bit. There's some updates of the ETF over the last 24 hours. I saw Fidelity. I still think there's a limited chance that will get done. But that if that ETF gets rejected, I think that would be a good time actually to buy some of these coins, even with good momentum. Even if that ETF gets,
What do you think the odds are of the ETF approval? Obviously, like I've seen, the market's pricing at like sub 30%. Do you think that's like slightly undervaluing things?
I think we have to have a little bit of understanding of the market that is pricing that. Like that market, even if you bring it up, sees about $1 million of trading. Like, and we're talking about an asset class which is multiple billions, hundreds of billions. So I think yes, it's been diminishing, and the Bloomberg analysts have said they don't think it's going to happen. We're now at a 28% chance. Interestingly, over the last 24 hours, and actually DC Investor, I don't know if you follow him, but he's a very good follow in the space, mainly in the ETH ecosystem. But he put out a good tweet over the last few hours, which is basically like the SEC lost another court case in the last 24 hours, and they actually got a pretty strong reprimand from the judge in that case, being like they're overstepping the mark in how they are treating crypto. Gensler, what I think might happen here is he might come up with a reason that the ETF doesn't get approved, but it's a weak reason, and he could very easily get challenged. But he'll just delay. He'll delay until after the election, and this will probably be a H2 24 or H1 25 sort of trade. And I don't know if that's necessarily bearish. It's just a delaying of what it is. So I don't think it probably gets approved by May. And I think it's probably some weak reason, which ends up being challenged in the courts relatively quickly. Gensler, who knows if he's still in a job in the second half of this year, or he maybe moves or something like that. So I think he'll probably play for time. That's what I think he'll do. And I think a weak dismissal of this ETF might actually even be taken positively. Like it's like, okay, they're going to court and they're going to lose again. So my view is that people are focused on the first order impact of this and not actually the second order, which would be the nature of the dismissal and how weak it would be in a court case. And I think that's probably where we're headed. So
it's an interesting point, because the Bitcoin ETF approval, the major rally actually happened. Obviously, post ETF, there has been a major rally, but the big percentage rally actually happened in the hype lead up to it being approved. That right. Initial move from 19 to 44, I believe it was. So it's if ETH starts getting those positive signs, there could be some sort of pre-approval rally. But I think, as you're saying here, the market's waiting for some sort of sign to pile into that trade. It seems to be a bit like hands off.
Yeah, so I would be buying the blood. Clarity. Sorry, yeah, I would be buying the blood if it does get rejected. Now, ETH has obviously had a tougher. I mean, you've been in this space for a few years now. Like, you can feel that it's just not being used. Like, people are not using it anywhere near as much as they were. The L2s have kind of broadly a bad rep in terms of usability, UI, UX, all this sort of thing. Solana just is dominating that. So I do think it's been a slightly more difficult cycle for Ethereum, because this modular nature has meant it's slightly fragmented in terms of where the value is kept and where the users are, and people are less, they just want to own the one thing and be in one platform, and they found it relatively easy. So I do think Solana right now and will still be a great trade. I think a lot of people pit them against each other. I just think that ETH as a trade will also be a good trade in the second half of this year, potentially, and particularly some of those things that I think are still showing very good fundamental signs, but just being dragged down because ETH is, just an unloved ecosystem at the moment.
Yeah, I think there have been a few like catalysts. Obviously, Dencoin reduced gas fees. I think another thing to watch on the ETH side is like the plethora of new L2s, like very heavily funded L2s coming onto the market. We haven't really seen the ecosystems develop. So I think in a sense, like the L2 ecosystem is relatively nascent, because you've got ZK Sync, Linear, like all of these. I mean, I think Linear had $725 million of funding with consensus behind it. So I'm just interested to see like what kind of fruit those products yield. That could be a positive catalyst for ETH. I guess the other thing is, I think we spoke about this on Rand's show last week. I'm a big Solana bull, by the way. I've been very public about my trading of Sol, but I'm kind of playing devil's advocate because I also recognize like where the wealth is, and it's still, as you can see in front of you, like in ETH and L2s. Although it's diminished slightly over the last couple of months, there's still a lot of money on ETH. So it's I'm not so quick to jump to the ETH is dead narrative. I think I'll play the counter trade at some point.
Exactly. I think there's a time to play that trade. Like, it's definitely not dead. I think what Solana has become is more like, the old adage was, Bitcoin is gold, ETH is money. Ethereum has become more like gold over the last 24 months. Like, the nature of the product, like the fees that you have to pay on chain, and the whole burn mechanism has made the base currency slightly more like a gold asset. It's actually deflationary right now, and that obviously also has impacts on users, right? Like there's a reason why that is. Whereas Solana has become a bit more like money. Like it's inflating at 4% a year, kind of like current fiat currency, but people are using it. People are using it because the fees are low, and you have much higher throughput of volume and of TVL. So, like, yes, Solana TVL is far lower than ETH, but DEX volumes are beating ETH and all the L2s. Stablecoin volumes are beating them because it is money right now. And I think that's one of the main differences between the two of them. Then that's not to say that they can't all have value. Like, I think ETH can clearly and obviously the security of the network lends itself to a lot of adoption, particularly by institutions, governments, all this sort of thing. But I just think it's in this current play, this more speculative, particularly part of the market, it's starting to lose out by not being more like money.
Yeah. I think Solana just being so cheap, it's had a massive advantage, especially with this whole meme coin season. I think Rand pointed an interesting thing out on his show yesterday. It's like, just like you have chips in Las Vegas, Sol is the currency of the Solana casino, which is like one of the world's biggest, if not the biggest casino right now. What do you make of this crazy meme coin mania? And it's funny because it did mark a local top, which I find hilarious. But I mean, just look at this: $122 million raised from 27 pre-sales. People are literally forking over like their life savings into random addresses. We saw just Slurf and all this stuff happen. Boom, like it's been wild. Absolutely wild.
I mean, obviously, it kind of harks back to what we saw in 2017 with like all the ICOs, and there's a lot of red warning signs with this sort of thing. I've never been that against meme coins, let's say, like morally or otherwise. Like, I do think they are still an interesting asset class. The actual things that drive them, like why is Doge valuable, is because we all believe it has some value. That's kind of how fiat currency is as well, with respect to, we've moved away from the gold standard. The only reason that this is worth $5 or that's worth $10 is because we accept that this piece of paper is worth that amount. That is also the exact reason why Bitcoin is also valuable. Yes, there's some economic cost to mining it, but we all have to accept the value of it for it to even have some sort of economic impact. So the reason why Doge or meme or any meme coins kind of replicates why Bitcoin is valued intrinsically there. So I think they're an interesting asset class as well, because in bull markets, as we've seen over the last 24 hours, they have very, very strong positive momentum. So everyone is playing for listings. And right now, the exchanges are playing ball. They seem to have been unshackled. Like, I think Binance, up until a few months ago, only ever had, I think, 7 or 8 meme coins ever listed. And they have been listing Solana meme coins left, right, and center, particularly for futures trading, but even some of them for spot. And also that means that a lot of the other smaller exchanges, particularly non-US ones, are listing these very, very quickly. So you have this incredible positive momentum. And that was shown most obviously with the Book of Meme, which got a Binance listing for spot in 24
That was
hours.
insane. I couldn't believe that.
Right. And then Slurp got one in 24 hours. Like, so what if you in these communities or in these discords, everyone's trying to pump up volumes as much as possible, the memes aren't even that good. Like, Dark Farms made Book of Meme, but it's really a PEPE derivative, or he used to make some of the if you're in the NFT space, you'll know some of the rare PEPEs. He's like a well-known PEPE artist. But we're not sitting there going like, I've ever heard what a slurf is before. Like, this thing's just come up in the last 24 hours.
Oh, they're on Spaces now, of course.
Of course.
The dev's back.
And he even burnt the initial treasury. So like, it's really a play. It's really a play on, let's pump volumes as much as we can. And if we can, then we'll get exchange listings, and they're going to be our exit liquidity because they will have to buy some for their own treasury. So it's very interesting in meme coins right now. I don't think you should sleep on it. I actually think that something I love seeing on the timeline is people say things like, "Oh, be careful out there," or like, "Don't, like, oh, you really should be this is all going to stop. You're all going to get hurt when the music stops." You will miss every left curve 1000x if you have that sort of mentality. Like, if you're going to get 1000x, you have to have the mentality of a left curve. You have to be like, right, some of this stuff will do that 1000x. And you can't just ignore those people telling you to like, be careful out there. I think everyone in that community knows the risks they're taking, like genuinely. I don't think anyone who buys something called Slurp, which is $1 billion market cap over the last 24 hours, doesn't realize that they are essentially gambling. But you have to accept it like a gambling sort of profile. So yeah, there is gambling sort of money to be made out there. I don't think it's zero sum. I really don't, because Doge went up to 40 billion, SHIBs, and still is at 20 billion. Like, that's not a zero sum game. There's economic like value of that right now. So it is slightly better odds than the casino for some of these. Obviously, that depends on at what point in the coin you get in. Yeah. But this is the best casino, because it's not, the house always wins right now. Like, at the end, it's
not rigged against you. There's ways for you to create an edge.
Exactly. So I think that you have to. I would not do this peripherally. I would definitely not be doing this while you're at work and like, oh, I just put this in. Like, people are spending every waking second right now looking at this stuff and catching all these trades. If you've heard about it from a friend of a friend, you are definitely too late. If you want to play meme coins, there are some bigger ones which I still think can have good moves. If you're trying to play some of the smaller on-chain ones, I think I would only ever do it if you're doing it day in, day out, and accept that it's going to be insanely volatile. But yeah, I just don't think you could ignore it.
My personal belief is that, as you said, the bigger ones I kind of treat differently. Like, your PEPE, with it's a little bit easier to trade them, but the gambling game, you're right. You got to be careful. What's your strategy for, like, obviously you're in crypto like full time, right? So you're like sitting there trading pretty much all day. What's your strategy for like spotting these memes? Is it pretty much just like random, or do you have an approach for like when you actually get into one of these lower cap meme coin trades?
Sure. Yeah. So I'll generally never buy a meme coin below 5 million, or normally even $10 million. Like, I don't generally like buying stuff until it's at least got above. And that was maybe even a mantra during the bear market. Now I'll look at anything which maybe gets above 20 or 30 in this bull, because things are going to 20. Like, so normally I'll look at something like that. Then if it's got enough volume, and if I actually quite like the meme, or if like I feel as though it has enough holders, is another metric I'll often look at. Like, generally, if you start to breach above, in the bear market, it used to be 10 to 20K average holding. So let's say WIF, for example, has about 75,000 holders right now. It's touching upon about a 30K dollars holding per holder at the moment. That's kind of towards the slightly upper end. Like, once it starts going to 40 or 50K, you generally start to see sellers, and you can look down that across the spectrum. So even for some of the lower cap memes, once you start breaching high average holdings, I'll generally get out. But I've liked some of the political memes into the second half of this year. I've liked some of the memes related to some of the OG Book of Dolan and the Dolan comic memes, and I've liked some of the memes just kind of related to Pepe stuff. Like, I think those will always do the best. But at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and be like one meme is better than the other. I'm looking at the metrics as well to judge what's really going to pick up.
True left curve approach to the market, basically.
Well, this is the thing. We won't make left curve gains if you don't have a left curve part of your portfolio either. So
how do you size this? Actually, that's a great question. Sorry to cut you off, but so you say part of your portfolio, what percentage is this degen game being played with?
It's low, but like, it's gone up a lot during this, because there have been some good gains in some of this stuff. So you're really re-rolling. That's what I generally tend to do. So like, I think I would put in a few. I think I put in like 100K a few months ago, and I've just been rolling with that since. But it's grown. That you can really re-roll some of this stuff.
Also, millions. You don't need to say it. I will.
I never really get tied too much to the bags either. That's the other thing. Like, particularly on the stuff which is below 100 million, I'm not the guy who will hold it, and will never sell. Like, I'll definitely get in and out of stuff quite a lot. Like, I feel like it's topped, I'll get out. I'll also, similarly, I'll DCA in and DCA out of positions. Like, I'll always leave myself with a moon bag and some of this stuff. So it's all the same stuff that I do for the majors, but I'm very, very disciplined about it for some of these. Like, I'm not sitting here if it's done a 10x being like, I'm gonna hold on to 1,000x. Like, no, it's like, that's been a good trade. I can re-roll this into something else. I'll keep a little bit in case it does that, and that's been a good way to trade it. But it's
when you find these meme coins, what's your strategy? Because for me, like I've kind of for me, it's kind of like on a pretty randomized basis. Like one of my researchers might send it to me, or you can kind of get an instinctual feel for it when you've been in the market. You kind of just know when a meme coin's good. But there'll be a lot of people watching this video, right? And they're thinking, well, I want to play the DGen game too, but I don't know how. Like I haven't been in this industry for that long. So how would you actually approach it? How would you go about finding this stuff?
So again, I would very much say that this is only for somebody who's doing this day in, day out. Like if you are going to do this peripherally, I still think you can have great gains with some of these main meme coins. Like I still think DOGE is going to be a good trade this cycle. I still think SHIB. I still think PEPE, WIF could all be good trades this cycle, particularly as we go higher. So those can still have crazy gains, and they are less risky. If you're going to do this day in, day out in the on-chain stuff, you kind of got to have Dex Screener up or Bird's Eye, which are two good ways to like scout coins. Generally, I'm looking at with Dex Screener, like I'll even bring up my screen. Like I'll look at coins with above 100K liquidity, above 100K volume, and that have been trading within the last 6 hours, trending within the last 6 hours. And then I'll just scout down. I'll look at like what seems to have good volume, what seems to have good momentum. Then I'll look into it like, how many holders has it got? What is this meme? I'll check out their Twitter, see if they've been tweeting actively, if they've got the dev. This is a full time looking at this sort of stuff, though. And then if I like it, then what I'll generally do is, let's say I wanted to put in, I'll put in 25% in one clip, and then I'll DCA in the other 75%. Generally using using Jupiter, which has been very, very good at trading on Solana, and they have a DCA function, and I'll DCA in over the next hour or 6 hours, and then when I feel like it's moved, or if it hasn't moved, I'll get out again of like 25 to 50%, and then I'll DCA out of the rest, depending if I want to keep a moon bag or not. So I think a lot of how people trade these on-chain coins is they'll get their whole bag and they'll just shove it in the one meme that they want, and they'd be like, right, that's my meme coin trade, and then it will go down 50%. They're like, I hate meme coins. Like, you have to give yourself the ability as well. For example, the reason why I DCA over that period, because if everything starts tanking, I have a little bit of time. I can be like, right, let's just settle down. I'll stop the DCA, and then I'll wait for it to the market to settle. So don't always think that you are some incredible trader that will time the top and bottom of any of these meme coins. Again, you've just got to accept that you're not going to be able to do that, and you have to have insurance policies for how you're going to trade them.
I think you've also got to treat them like your meme coin portfolio is like a separate portfolio. So like your Doge WIF allocation should be relative to the other memes. So if you've got 10K in WIF, you shouldn't be going 10K into Milk or Wolf, because it just makes no sense. You have to treat it like in isolation, I think. Are you sharing these meme coins on your newsletter?
So generally I do. I have a section at the bottom of it, which is like a hot meme coins section. I do hot NFTs and hot meme coins. If you just type, if you hit minutes at the top right there, you'll bring up the most recent one.
I'll leave this in the description if anyone wants to sign up for the daily newsletter. I highly recommend it.
I don't generally choose meme coins like it's not just choosing the meme coins just I've bought. This takes you to the Dex Screener site, and I'll generally just put the ones that have been going higher over the last 24 hours, and the same for NFTs. So really how that newsletter is set up is crypto, kind of the stuff that we would talk about on normal shows. Then it's macro, because I used to have that sort of a background, and then it's like left curve, NFTs, memes, low cap stuff like airdrops. How are you going to make 100x? So that bottom section is really the kind of the 100x.
I could make a video a day just on your. I could literally just go through it, and that's content done. No research.
Yeah, I mean, I try and make it a minute, or at least a few minutes for you to get it in. That's kind of the idea of it. I started doing that newsletter when I went on holiday once, and I realized that if you're out of crypto for a few days, like you just can't keep up, particularly during bull markets. So I was like, right, I should just make the newsletter that I would want to read if I was on holiday. So that's what I tried to do it. But yeah, it is keeping up with that stuff at the moment is wild. Like intraday, Slurp Like Fluff even went to 500 million in a day and got Binance. It's like I kind of need to do it like twice a day at the moment to even keep up. It's wild.
I feel the same on YouTube. Like some days I need to do 2 videos, but I just can't. It's just too much. It's too
Buy
much.
the dip. All right. Oh, we bought the dip. It's now.
Yeah. Now take profits. Buy the dip. Take profits. Like every day. It's like a different narrative. I think we're gonna leave it there for now. I mean, we could honestly talk for hours, but I think if the audience liked you as a guest, let me know in the comments below. Should we have Mando back? Because I think people will really resonate with your style, and I think that they'll enjoy this. So I'm sure we'll have you back, and then we'll do a follow up. But we'll save some fuel in the tank for next time.
Yeah.
And I'm sure next time the market will be doing something crazy, something different.
The market's
bigger dump, bigger pump.
The market's always doing something crazy, man. It's been a pleasure. Yeah, I'll come back whenever you want. Like I do this every day, so I am up to speed by 12 p.m. Lisbon time every single day, and I'm ready to go. Amazing.
So yeah, everyone go check out Mando's newsletter in the description. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out. Cool.